The text message arrived at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, just as I was wondering why my phone had been acting like a piece of junk all day. No service bars, calls dropping, the whole 9 yards of technological rebellion. I'd chalked it up to our carrier having another one of their famous network optimization moments. Corporate speak for, "We broke something and hope you don't notice." But Maggie Bell's message came through on my work email instead of my phone, which should have been my first clue that something was seriously wrong. "Weird situation, Eli. Your wife and daughter just changed your online banking password. Thought you should know. Call me first thing tomorrow. Maggie." I stared at the laptop screen in my home office, rain drumming against the windows like an impatient debt collector. The Pacific Northwest was living up to its reputation tonight. Dark, wet, and full of surprises nobody wanted. My name is Eli Granger, but everyone calls me Eli. I'm 38, a small-time contractor who specializes in kitchen renovations and bathroom remodels. Nothing glamorous, but it pays the bills and keeps me busy enough to avoid thinking too hard about how my marriage had been circling the drain for the past 6 months. I'd served 2 tours in Afghanistan before coming home to Seattle and learning how to install tile without getting shot at. Turns out, the skills translate better than you'd think. Attention to detail, patience, and the ability to spot when someone's lying to your face. Like right now, for instance. I walked upstairs to our bedroom, where my wife Vivian was sprawled across our king-size bed, scrolling through her phone with the kind of intense focus usually reserved for brain surgery or defusing bombs. Her blonde hair was pulled back in one of those messy buns that somehow cost $40 at the salon, and she was wearing her favorite pajama set, the silk one I'd bought her for Christmas. "Hey, Viv," I said, keeping my voice casual. "My phone's been acting up all day." "You know anything about that?" She didn't look up from her screen. "Probably the company messing with the towers again. You know how they are." "Right. And I got a weird email from Maggie at the bank. Something about password changes?" That got her attention. Vivian's head snapped up, and for just a split second, I saw something flicker across her face. Guilt, maybe? Or panic. But it was gone so fast I almost missed it. "Oh, that," she said, her voice taking on that bright, artificial tone she used when she was about to feed me a line of bull. "I was helping you organize our finances." "You're always so busy with work, I thought I'd take some of the burden off your shoulders." "How thoughtful," I said. "Except I never asked you to do that." "Well, maybe you should have. Do you know how much money we're wasting on your little contractor toys? That new saw you bought last month cost $800, Eli. 800 exclamation mark. I felt that familiar knot forming in my stomach, the same one I'd been getting every time we had this conversation. "That saw is for work, Viv. It's a business expense. It makes me money." "Does it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're playing with expensive toys while I'm trying to hold this family together." This was classic Vivian. Turn the conversation around, make me the bad guy, avoid the actual question. She was good at it too. Good enough that it had taken me 3 years of marriage to recognize the pattern. But tonight felt different. Tonight, I had Maggie's email burning a hole in my brain, and my phone was still dead as a doornail. "I'm going to call the phone company," I said. "Good luck with that. Their customer service is terrible after 9 p.m. I went back downstairs and tried calling from the landline we kept for emergencies. After 20 minutes on hold and a conversation with a customer service rep named Brad who sounded like he was reading from a script, I learned something interesting. My phone service had been suspended for non-payment. According to Brad, someone with account access had called earlier that day and requested the suspension, claiming the phone had been stolen. The same someone had also changed the account password and added a security note that only the primary account holder, Vivian, could make changes. "But I'm the one who pays the bill," I told Brad. "I understand your frustration, sir, but according to our records, Mrs. Granger is listed as the primary account holder. She'll need to call us directly to restore service." I hung up and sat in my office chair, staring out at the rain. 20 years ago, I would have stormed upstairs and demanded answers. 10 years ago, I might have gotten drunk and made a scene. But tonight, I did something different. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a battered spiral notebook, the kind I used for job estimates and material lists. I flipped to a clean page and wrote, "Revenge Budget Day 1" at the top. Then I started making a list. The first item was simple. Find out what Vivian is really up to. The second item was even simpler. Make her regret it. I was halfway through writing the third item when I heard footsteps on the stairs. Vivian appeared in the doorway, wearing a robe over her pajamas and carrying 2 cups of tea. "I thought you might want some chamomile," she said, offering me one of the cups. "You seem stressed?" I accepted the tea, but didn't drink it. Instead, I studied my wife's face in the lamplight. She was beautiful. I'd give her that. At 34, she still turned heads when we went out together. Her fitness influencer lifestyle kept her in amazing shape, and she knew how to use makeup like a professional artist. But tonight, looking at her carefully applied smile and perfectly styled hair, all I could think was, when did she become such a stranger? "Viv," I said, "I need you to be honest with me about something." "Of course." She perched on the edge of my desk, close enough that I could smell her expensive perfume. "Are you having an affair?" The question hung in the air between us like smoke from a house fire. Vivian's smile never wavered, but her knuckles went white around her teacup. "That's a terrible thing to ask," she said finally. "That's not an answer. Of course I'm not having an affair, Eli. God, what kind of person do you think I am? The kind of person who shuts off her husband's phone and changes his bank passwords, I thought. But I didn't say it out loud. Instead, I just nodded and took a sip of tea. "Good," I said. "I'm glad we cleared that up." She kissed my forehead and headed back upstairs, leaving me alone with my notebook and my growing suspicions. I waited until I heard the bedroom door close. Then I got up and started searching. It took me 20 minutes to find Vivian's gym bag in the laundry room. Inside, underneath her workout clothes and protein bars, I discovered a phone I'd never seen before. A cheap burner with a cracked screen. The phone was locked, but when I held down the power button, I could see the last few text messages on the preview screen. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow." "Same place?" "M. Yes, but we have to be more careful. He's starting to ask questions." "V. Don't worry about him. After this weekend, it won't matter anyway." "M." I put the phone back exactly where I'd found it and went upstairs. Vivian was already asleep, or pretending to be. I lay down beside her and stared at the ceiling, listening to the rain and thinking about the letter M. Miles Porter. Had to be. I'd met Miles exactly once, at a charity auction Vivian had dragged me to 6 months ago. He was everything I wasn't. Tall, tan, perfectly dressed, with the kind of confident smile that came from never having to worry about money. He owned half the commercial real estate in the city and drove a Tesla that probably cost more than I made in a year. At the auction, he'd spent 10 minutes talking to Vivian about fitness and wellness synergy, while I stood there like a piece of furniture. I'd chalked it up to networking. Vivian was always trying to expand her social media presence, and Miles was the kind of guy who knew people. Now I was wondering if synergy was just another word for adultery. I rolled over and looked at my sleeping wife. In the dim light from the street lamp outside, she looked peaceful, innocent even, but appearances could be deceiving. I'd learned that lesson in Afghanistan, where the difference between friend and enemy often came down to who was holding the gun. Tomorrow, I decided, I was going to find out who was holding the gun in my marriage, and then I was going to take it away from them. I was awake before dawn, which wasn't unusual. 20 years of military wake-up calls had trained my body to function on 5 hours of sleep and pure stubbornness. What was unusual was the sense of purpose I felt as I made coffee and planned my day. Step 1. Talk to Maggie Bell. Maggie and I had known each other since high school. She was one of those people who always seemed destined for bigger things. Class president, valedictorian, full scholarship to Washington State. After college, she'd worked her way up from bank teller to branch manager in record time. More importantly, she was the kind of friend who would text you at midnight when something seemed wrong. The First National Bank of Seattle opened at 9 a.m. sharp. I was waiting in the parking lot at 8:50, drinking gas station coffee and watching the employees arrive for work. Maggie pulled up in her sensible Honda Civic at 8:55, looking professional in a navy blue suit that probably cost more than my truck payment. She spotted me immediately and waved me over. "You look like hell, Eli," she said by way of greeting. "Thanks." You always know just what to say to make a guy feel better. Come on, let's talk in my office before the circus starts. Maggie's office was all glass and steel, with motivational posters about financial planning and a view of the parking lot. She closed the door behind us and gestured for me to sit down. Okay, she said, settling behind her desk. Tell me what's going on. I told her everything. The dead phone, the password changes, the burner phone in Vivian's gym bag. Maggie listened without interrupting, her expression growing more concerned with each detail. Jesus, Eli, she said when I finished. How long has this been going on? I don't know. Months, maybe. I've been so focused on work that I haven't been paying attention to the warning signs. What do you want to do about it? I want to protect myself. Financially, I mean. If Vivian is planning something, I need to make sure she can't clean out our accounts and disappear. Maggie nodded. I can help with that. You're the primary account holder on your business accounts, and you're joint on the personal accounts. We can remove Vivian as an authorized user, change all the passwords, and set up new security protocols. Is that legal? Completely. These are your accounts, Eli. You have every right to control access to them. We spent the next hour going through paperwork. Maggie was thorough and professional, but I could see the anger in her eyes. She'd never liked Vivian. Something about bad vibes and fake energy. But she'd kept her opinions to herself out of loyalty to me. There, she said, sliding the final form across her desk. Vivian no longer has access to any of your accounts. I've also flagged your credit cards for suspicious activity and ordered new ones with different numbers. They'll arrive by courier this afternoon. What about the joint accounts? Those are trickier. Legally, she still has access to those. But I can set up alerts so you'll know immediately if she tries to make any large withdrawals or transfers. I signed the last form and leaned back in my chair. Thanks, Maggie. I owe you one. You don't owe me anything. Just promise me you'll be careful. If Vivian is planning something, she's not going to be happy when she finds out you've cut off her access. Let me worry about Vivian. I'm serious, Eli. People do crazy things when they're cornered. Make sure you're not alone with her until this gets sorted out. I left the bank feeling better than I had in weeks. For the first time in months, I felt like I was in control of something. It was a good feeling, one I'd almost forgotten. My next stop was the gym, where Vivian worked as a manager and part-time trainer. Elite Fitness was one of those upscale places where the membership fee could pay for a decent used car. All chrome and mirrors and overpriced protein shakes. I wasn't a member, but I knew the layout from the few times Vivian had dragged me there for couples workouts that usually ended with me feeling inadequate and her flirting with the other trainers. The front desk was staffed by a 20-something kid named Tyler who looked like he survived entirely on supplements and positive thinking. "Hey, Mr. Granger," he said when he saw me. "Here to surprise Vivian?" Something like that. Is she in? She's in the office with Kara. They're planning some kind of charity event, I think. Kara Summers was Vivian's best friend and fellow fitness enthusiast. She was also the gym's assistant manager and the closest thing to a mean girl I'd encountered since high school. If Vivian was up to something, Kara probably knew about it. I thanked Tyler and made my way toward the back of the gym, where the administrative offices were located. The office door was closed, but I could hear voices inside. Vivian's laugh and Kara's more nasal tone. I was about to knock when I heard something that stopped me cold. "Can't believe he hasn't figured it out yet," Kara was saying. "I mean, you've been practically living at that hotel for 2 months." "Eli's not exactly the sharpest tool in the shed," Vivian replied. "Besides, he's so buried in work he barely notices when I'm home anyway." "Still, you're taking a huge risk. What if he finds out about Miles? What's he going to do? Eli's a nice guy, but he's weak. He'll probably just sulk for a while and then forgive me like he always does. And if he doesn't, then I'll take him for everything he's worth in the divorce. I've been documenting his spending habits for months. All those expensive tools, the business trips, the cash payments from clients he probably doesn't report to the IRS. My lawyer says I can probably get alimony and half of everything else." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach, not because of the affair, I'd already suspected that, but because of how casually she was discussing destroying my life. Like I was just another business problem to be solved. "You're terrible," Kara said, But she was laughing. Poor Eli. He has no idea what's coming. Poor Eli nothing. He's had this coming for years. Do you know how boring it is being married to someone who gets excited about kitchen backsplashes? Miles actually listens when I talk. He understands my goals. Miles is also married with 2 kids. Not for much longer. He's filing for divorce next month. We're going to start fresh. New city, new life, new everything. I'd heard enough. I backed away from the door and walked out of the gym, my mind racing. Vivian wasn't just having an affair. She was planning to destroy my life and run off with her boyfriend. The phone suspension, the password changes, the documentation of my spending, it was all part of a plan. But here's the thing about plans. They only work if the other side doesn't know what's coming. And now I knew exactly what was coming. I drove to my current job site, a kitchen renovation in Queen Anne, and spent the day ripping out old cabinets with more enthusiasm than the job strictly required. Physical work helped me think, and by the time I packed up my tools at 5 p.m., I had the beginning of a plan. That evening, I made dinner and waited for Vivian to come home. She arrived at 7:30, looking flushed and happy in a way that made my stomach turn. "Sorry I'm late," she said, kissing my cheek. "Kara and I were working on this charity auction thing. It's going to be amazing." "Sounds great," I said. "How was your day?" "Oh, the usual gym drama. Mrs. Peterson is complaining about the music volume again, and Tyler accidentally double-booked the spin studio. She was a good liar. I had to give her that. If I hadn't heard her conversation with Kara, I might have believed her. We ate dinner and made small talk about our days. Vivian seemed relaxed, almost cheerful. She had no idea that her carefully laid plans were about to hit a brick wall. After dinner, I excused myself to work in my home office. I had calls to make and research to do. The first call was to my accountant, a meticulous woman named Janet who handled my business taxes. "Janet, it's Eli Granger. I need to ask you about something." "Sure, Eli. What's on your mind?" "If someone were to claim that I was hiding income or not reporting cash payments, how would that play out in a divorce?" There was a pause. "Are you getting divorced?" "Maybe. I'm just trying to understand my options." "Well, the good news is that you're one of my most honest clients. Every cash payment you've received in the past 5 years has been properly documented and reported. Your books are cleaner than most Fortune 500 companies. What about my business expenses? Tools, equipment, that sort of thing? All legitimate and properly categorized. Eli, if someone is threatening you with financial impropriety, they're bluffing. Your records are bulletproof." I thanked Janet and hung up, feeling a little better. Vivian's plan to paint me as a tax cheat wasn't going to work. My next call was to Jasper Mills, my old Army buddy who now worked as a private investigator in Portland. Jasper was the kind of guy who could find out what you had for breakfast 3 weeks ago if you gave him enough time and motivation. "Eli, you old bastard," Jasper said when he answered. "Please tell me you're calling because you want to go fishing." "I wish." "I need a favor, Jazz. I think my wife is cheating on me, and I need proof." "Shit. I'm sorry, man. What do you need?" I gave him the details. Miles Porter, the hotel meetings, the burner phone. Jasper listened and took notes. "I can be up there by tomorrow afternoon," he said. "This shouldn't take long if they're as sloppy as you say they are." "What's your rate these days?" "For you?" "Just cover my expenses and buy me dinner when this is over." "Thanks, Jazz." "I owe you. You don't owe me anything." "We look out for each other, remember?" After I hung up, I sat in my office and updated my revenge notebook. The plan was starting to take shape, and it felt good to be taking action instead of just reacting to whatever Vivian threw at me. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. Jasper arrived the next afternoon driving a nondescript gray sedan and wearing the kind of clothes that made him invisible in a crowd. He was my age but looked older, with prematurely gray hair and the kind of weathered face that came from too many years in the desert sun. "You look terrible," he said, shaking my hand. "So, I've been told. Thanks for coming." "Don't mention it. Where do we start?" I filled him in on everything I'd learned, including Vivian's conversation with Kara about the hotel meetings. Jasper took notes in a small notebook, asking questions about timing and locations. This Miles character? You said he drives a Tesla? Yeah, silver Model S, vanity plates that say MLSPTR. Jesus, subtle. What about your wife? Does she have a routine? She leaves for the gym every morning at 7. Usually comes home around 6, sometimes later if she's working on projects with Kara. Quotes around working on projects? Definitely quotes. Jasper grinned. I like you better when you're pissed off. You're funnier. We spent the rest of the afternoon doing reconnaissance. The hotel where Vivian and Miles met was the Grand Pacific, a fancy place downtown with valet parking and overpriced cocktails. Jasper took photos of the building, the parking garage, and the surrounding streets. If they're meeting here regularly, they've probably got a routine, he said. Same time, same entrance, maybe even the same room. People having affairs think they're being careful, but they're usually just being predictable. That evening, I cooked dinner and waited for Vivian to come home. She arrived at 7:15, slightly out of breath and carrying her gym bag. Sorry I'm late, she said. Traffic was terrible. No problem. How was your day? Busy? I had 3 training sessions and a meeting with a potential sponsor for the charity auction. Another lie. According to Tyler at the gym, Vivian had left at 3 p.m. and hadn't come back. I was starting to keep a mental tally of her deceptions. After dinner, Vivian said she was going to take a bath and go to bed early. I waited until I heard the bathroom door close. Then I went outside to meet Jasper, who was parked across the street. Anything interesting? I asked, getting into his car. Your wife's got a burner phone, and she's been texting someone all afternoon. I managed to get close enough at the coffee shop to see a few messages. And? Tomorrow at 2 p.m., same place. She told him you're working late and won't be home until after 7. I'm supposed to be installing cabinets until 5, but I could probably wrap up early. Good. I want to get some photos of them together. Once we have proof of the affair, we can start thinking about how to use it. The next day crawled by like a root canal. I tried to focus on work, but my mind kept wandering to what Vivian and Miles were doing at the hotel. By 1:30, I'd finished installing the last cabinet and was cleaning up my tools. I met Jasper in the parking garage of the Grand Pacific at 1:45. He'd brought a camera with a telephoto lens and was wearing a hotel maintenance uniform he'd somehow acquired. Where did you get that? I asked. Trade secret. You'd be amazed how easy it is to look like you belong somewhere if you dress the part. We positioned ourselves near the elevator bank with a clear view of the lobby. At exactly 2 p.m., Miles Porter walked through the front entrance, looking like he owned the place. He was wearing an expensive suit and carrying a leather briefcase that probably cost more than my truck. 5 minutes later, Vivian arrived. She was dressed casually, jeans and a sweater, but she'd clearly put effort into her appearance. Her hair was perfect, her makeup was flawless, and she was carrying a small overnight bag. They met near the concierge desk, exchanged a brief kiss, and headed for the elevators. Jasper got several clear photos of them together. Room 1247, he said, reading the floor indicator. 12th floor. Now what? Now we wait, and we document everything. We spent the next 2 hours in the parking garage, taking photos of Miles's Tesla and running the license plate number through Jasper's contacts. By 4 p.m., we had a complete dossier on Miles Porter. His home address, his business interests, his wife's name, even his kids' schools. This guy's got a lot to lose, Jasper said, scrolling through the information on his tablet. Big house in Bellevue, wife's a pediatric surgeon, kids at private school. If this affair comes out, it's going to cost him everything. Good, I said. Maybe it's time he understood what that feels like. Vivian and Miles emerged from the hotel at 4:30, looking relaxed and satisfied. They said goodbye in the lobby. Another kiss, longer this time, and went their separate ways. I followed Miles to the parking garage while Jasper tailed Vivian. Miles' Tesla was parked in a handicapped space near the elevator, because apparently cheating on your spouse wasn't the only law he felt comfortable breaking. I waited until Miles was in the elevator, then I walked over to his car and keyed cheater into the driver's side door. It wasn't mature, but it felt good. Then I opened the bag of protein powder I'd brought from Vivian's gym stash and poured it in a trail from the car to the elevator. Petty? Absolutely. Satisfying? You bet. When I got back to my truck, Jasper was waiting with a grin on his face. "Feel better?" he asked. "A little. What did you find out?" "Your wife went to a coffee shop after leaving the hotel. She spent 20 minutes on the phone with someone, probably Kara, based on the body language. They're definitely planning something. What's our next move?" "We turn up the heat. I'm going to call Miles' wife and give her a heads up about the affair. Anonymous tip, untraceable phone. Then we sit back and watch what happens." That evening, Vivian came home in a fantastic mood. She was humming while she cooked dinner, and she actually seemed interested in hearing about my day. If I hadn't known where she'd spent her afternoon, I might have thought we were making progress in our marriage. "You seem happy," I said over dinner. "I am. Things are really coming together with the charity auction. I think it's going to be our biggest fundraiser yet." "That's great. What charity are you supporting again?" She hesitated for just a moment. "The Children's Hospital. We're trying to raise money for new equipment in the pediatric wing." Another lie. I'd called the Children's Hospital that afternoon, and they had no record of any charity auction organized by Elite Fitness. After dinner, Vivian said she had some calls to make for the auction. She went upstairs to our bedroom and closed the door. I waited 10 minutes, then I crept up the stairs and listened outside the door. "Can't keep meeting at the same place," she was saying. "It's too risky." A pause. "I know you think I'm being paranoid, but something feels different about Eli lately. He's asking more questions." Another pause. "No, I don't think he knows anything. But we should be more careful until after next weekend." I tiptoed back downstairs and updated my revenge notebook. Whatever they were planning for next weekend, I was going to be ready for it. My phone buzzed with a text from Jasper. "Package delivered. Expect fireworks tomorrow." I went to bed that night with a smile on my face for the first time in weeks. Phase 1 of my plan was complete. Now it was time for Phase 2. The fireworks started at 8:30 the next morning. I was drinking coffee and reading the newspaper when Vivian's phone rang. She answered it cheerfully, probably expecting Kara or one of her gym friends. "Hello?" Her face went white. "Who is this?" she demanded, her voice sharp with panic. I couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but from Vivian's responses, it was clear that someone was asking uncomfortable questions about her relationship with Miles Porter. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said. "Miles Porter is a business associate. We're working on a charity project together." A long pause. "That's ridiculous. I'm a married woman. I would never—" She hung up abruptly and stared at the phone like it might bite her. "Everything okay?" I asked innocently. "Some crazy person claiming I'm having an affair? Probably just a prank call. Weird. Who would do something like that?" I have no idea. But I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was scared, and scared people make mistakes. Her phone rang again. This time she let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. And again. By the fourth call, Vivian was visibly shaking. "I'm going to the gym," she announced. "I need to talk to Kara about something." She grabbed her keys and rushed out of the house, leaving her coffee untouched and her phone behind. I waited until her car was out of sight. Then I checked her voicemail. 3 messages from unknown numbers, all asking about her relationship with Miles Porter. The 4th message was from Miles himself, and he sounded panicked. "Viv, call me as soon as you get this. Jennifer knows about us. She's filing for divorce and she's taking the kids. I think someone's been following us. We need to talk." I deleted the message and put the phone back where Vivian had left it. Then I called Jasper. "How's your morning going?" he asked. "Better than Miles Porter's, I imagine. His wife knows?" "Oh yeah, Jennifer Porter is not a woman you want to mess with. She's already filed for divorce and frozen all their joint accounts. Miles is about to learn what it feels like to be financially cut off. Poetic justice. It gets better. I may have also mentioned to a few people at his office that he's been using company resources for personal meetings. His business partners are not happy. I spent the morning working on a bathroom renovation in Capitol Hill, but my mind was on Vivian and Miles. By now, they'd probably figured out that someone was onto them. The question was, what were they going to do about it? I got my answer at lunchtime. I was eating a sandwich in my truck when I saw Miles' Tesla pull up across the street. The cheater scratches were still visible on the door, and there were remnants of protein powder stuck to the windshield. Miles got out of the car and looked around nervously before walking over to my truck. "We need to talk," he said. "Do we? I don't think we've been formally introduced. I'm Eli Granger. I know who you are, and I think you know who I am. Miles Porter, right? You're the guy who's been sleeping with my wife." He flinched at my directness. Up close, he looked like hell. Unshaven, rumpled suit, dark circles under his eyes. "Look, I know how this looks. It looks like you've been screwing my wife in hotel rooms while I'm working to pay for her gym membership and designer clothes. It's not that simple. Sure it is. You wanted something that didn't belong to you, so you took it. Now you're dealing with the consequences." Miles glanced around nervously. "Someone's been following us. Taking pictures. My wife got an anonymous phone call yesterday with details about our meetings. This isn't a coincidence. Sounds like someone doesn't approve of adultery. Can't imagine who that might be. If you think you're going to blackmail me..." "Blackmail?" I laughed. "Miles, you've got nothing I want. Your money, your house, your fancy car, none of that interests me. You know what interests me? Watching you and my wife face the consequences of your actions. What do you want? I want you to stay away from my wife. I want you to stop using my marriage as your personal playground. And I want you to understand that actions have consequences." Miles tried to look tough, but it didn't work. He was a bully who'd never been punched in the mouth, and it showed. "You don't understand," he said. "Vivian and I are in love. We're going to be together whether you like it or not. Are you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like your wife just took half your assets and your girlfriend is about to lose her job. That's not exactly a fairy tale ending." His face went pale. "What do you mean, lose her job?" "Oh, didn't you know? Elite Fitness has a strict policy about employees using company resources for personal activities. Apparently, someone sent the board of directors some interesting photos of Vivian entertaining clients in ways that aren't covered in the employee handbook. This was a bluff. I hadn't actually contacted Elite Fitness yet. But Miles didn't know that. "You bastard," he said. "I'm the bastard? You're the one who destroyed 2 marriages, but I'm the bastard for pointing it out?" Miles looked like he wanted to hit me, but he was smart enough to know that assaulting someone in broad daylight would only make his problems worse. "This isn't over," he said. "You're right. It's not. But it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better." He stalked back to his Tesla and drove off, leaving me alone with my sandwich and a growing sense of satisfaction. That evening, Vivian came home looking like she'd been through a blender. Her hair was disheveled, her makeup was smudged, and she had the wild-eyed look of someone who was losing control of her carefully managed life. "Bad day?" I asked. "Someone's trying to sabotage me," she said. "Someone called the gym and made up lies about me and Miles. They're saying we're having an affair. Are you?" The question hung in the air like a smoke alarm. Vivian stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her calculating her options. "Of course not," she said finally. "Miles is married. I'm married. We're working on a charity project together, nothing more." "Good. I'm glad to hear that." But we both knew she was lying, and we both knew that I knew she was lying. The pretense was wearing thin. "I think someone's following me," she said. "I saw the same car behind me 3 times today. Maybe you should call the police." "And tell them what? That someone's taking pictures of me having business meetings? Is that all they were? Business meetings?" Another long pause. "Yes," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. That night, Vivian tossed and turned in bed, checking her phone every few minutes. Around midnight, she got up and went downstairs. I waited a few minutes, then followed her. She was in the kitchen, talking on her burner phone in hushed tones. "Can't keep doing this," she was saying. "Everything's falling apart." A pause. "I know you're scared, but running away isn't going to solve anything." Another pause. "Fine, but this is the last time. After tomorrow, we're done until things cool down. She hung up and turned around, nearly jumping out of her skin when she saw me standing in the doorway. Jesus, Eli? You scared me. Sorry, couldn't sleep. Who are you talking to? Kara. She's having problems with her boyfriend. At midnight? She's really upset. Sometimes people need to talk, you know? I nodded and poured myself a glass of water. You seem stressed lately. Maybe you should take a vacation. Maybe I will. Where would you go? I don't know. Somewhere warm. Somewhere I can think. Alone? She looked at me sharply. Of course, alone. Why would you ask that? Just wondering. It might be good for us to spend some time apart. Give us both a chance to figure out what we really want. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Just that sometimes a little distance can provide clarity. I kissed her forehead and went back upstairs, leaving her standing in the kitchen with her burner phone and her guilty conscience. Tomorrow, I decided, it was time to turn up the heat even more. I woke up Friday morning with the same anticipation I used to feel before missions in the Army. Months of planning were about to pay off. Vivian was gone, as usual, but the note she'd left on the counter was different. Gone to handle some business. We'll be late tonight. Don't wait up. V. No warmth, no love, just business. She was pulling away, preparing for whatever she and Miles had planned. I had plans too. At the bank, Maggie had the paperwork ready. Are you sure about this? She asked. Absolutely. By the time I left, Vivian had no access to my accounts, no credit cards, no phone plan, not even the gym membership I'd been paying for. Legally, she still had the joint account, but it held only $53. She'll be furious, Maggie said. Good, I told her. Fury makes people sloppy. My next stop was Elite Fitness. Rick Santos, the owner, studied the photos Jasper had taken of Vivian and Miles at a hotel. Then he saw the financial records, guest passes, catering bills, training sessions, all charged to the gym's corporate account. She used my business to fund her affair? Rick said, furious. I shrugged. I'm not asking you to fire her. What you do with this information is up to you, Rick didn't need to answer. His face told me everything. By noon, Jasper called. They're at the hotel again. Miles brought suitcases, big ones running off together. Perfect timing. Meet me at Murphy's at 6, I said. It's time. Murphy's Tavern was where Vivian always went on Fridays. Small-town gossip central. The perfect stage. I arrived early. By 6:15, Vivian walked in, tense and tired. Her face changed when she saw me. Surprise, confusion, then anger. What are you doing here? She asked. Having a drink with an old friend, I said. Join us. She sat, clearly uncomfortable under so many watching eyes. Someone's been following me, she said. Taking pictures. Spreading lies? Have you called the police? You know I can't. Oh, I said lightly. Why not? She froze, realized I knew everything. How long? She asked. Affair? Weeks. The plan to empty my accounts? Yesterday, her face drained of color. I leaned in. You fell for someone else. Fine. But the lying, stealing, trying to ruin me, that I take personally? Can we talk at home? She whispered. Why? Afraid people will hear about your charity work with Miles? You're humiliating me, she hissed. No, you're humiliating yourself. I'm just providing context. I pulled out my phone. Check your credit cards. You'll find them interesting. She checked. Her face went white. You canceled everything? Only what was mine. You're welcome to get your own. She tried calling Miles, straight to voicemail. Again. Same result. Having trouble reaching your partner? I asked. Stop it. Oh, right. His wife filed for divorce. Took the house, cars, half the business. Full custody, too. Guess there won't be much left for romantic getaways. Vivian's hands shook. You don't understand. We love each other. Love involves trust. You two have mutual selfishness and good chemistry. The bar was silent now. People recording. She stood abruptly. I'm leaving. Good idea, I said, but you'll need a hotel tonight. Locks are changed. You can't do that. I own the house outright. You'll manage. She looked around desperately, but her friends avoided her eyes. This isn't over, she warned. Of course not. You'll want a lawyer. Small problem, though. I already met with the top 3 in the city. Conflict of interest now. They can't represent you. She stared at me, furious and shaken. I never knew you could be this vindictive. I learned from the best. Vivian left without another word. Jasper whistled. That was brutal. That, I said, was justice. My phone buzzed. A text from Miles. We need to talk. I have a proposition. Meet him? Jasper asked. Oh, absolutely, I said, raising my beer toward the door Vivian had walked through. Class dismissed. The end, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching, 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 watching,